Friends, what if you had a crystal ball? If you could look into your future and say, man, it's going to be amazing, or if I'd only known. Today, my friend Ali Nasser is joining me, and we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes. We're going to call them landmines, the biggest landmines that we face in our journey of building a registered investment advisory firm, scaling it to a best-in-class exit. So you're going to have the opportunity to look into the crystal ball and say, hey, here are the landmines that these two seasoned financial advisor coaches are going to tell me about. Can you believe it's already February 2025? Man, we are rocking and rolling, especially those of us in the advisory space. So today I asked one of my dear friends, Mr. Ali Nasser, to come back on the show. And we want to unpack some landmines, some pain points, some really big mistakes that we made in our journey along this building a financial firm that is scalable and also transactionable. In other words, we could transition it to somebody else. So Ali, man, thanks for coming back on the show, brother.
My pleasure, Justin. Always great to see you.
So we've been talking about this content for some time, even when we were back, going fishing down in Florida here this last year in the summertime. We were talking about the mistakes that we made, and I remember our conversation sitting on the balcony looking across the vista and like, dude, if we could just share the biggest mistakes that we made with our fellow financial advisors out there so they don't make the same dumb mistakes. And I also use the term discover. We had to discover some things, partially because I'm hard-headed and I have a hard time getting things in my head. But we were talking about then that, man, we'd love to share some things that we've learned on this journey with our financial advisor peers and other business owners out there that hopefully they don't make the same dumb mistakes that we made. So the time has come. And today we're going to have a pretty organic conversation around what are the mistakes we made, man. I'm hoping that you and I can get extremely authentic here, pull back the onion, and share some pain as well as some celebrations along the way as we discover these truths.
I think we teach the pain we know the most. And this sounds like something we can share from our own painful experiences.
So when you look back on your journey as Ali Nasser, the grand poobah himself, the individual who, and I know I'm giving you a little bit of platitudes here, but the reality is you've done something that very few business owners yet financial advisors have ever done. You built a dynamic practice, you scaled it in a rapid formation, and then you exited for substantial value while taking care of your team, while taking care of your clients, and ultimately taking care of your family. It was a pretty impactful thing. So as you look back on that journey, what's one of the things that stick in your mind about being, something, man, if I could share this with somebody else, I think it could impact them.
Thank you for the kind words, by the way. I appreciate that. And it means a lot. I think the biggest thing when I look back that helped all of that happen is just constantly leveling up. You hit a threshold and you get stuck and you can either stay there. And I know some advisors or business owners that are at the same level they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Or you take option 2, which is let me level up. But in order to level up, you've got to get really uncomfortable because everybody wants growth. Nobody wants the pain that is required for growth.
Now, whenever you were looking at these plateaus, I call them glass ceilings is kind of the way my brain thinks because I want to bust through them. I don't want them to be a hard ceiling. Whenever you looked at this, did you take the approach of, okay, I realize that there are 5 or 6 different levels in the financial practice. Like I realize that from $0 to $250,000 is like entry level type of movements. And then, from like $250,000 up to like $500,000, we have to make some moves, and $500 to $1 million. Did you look at it through like a bandwidth, or did you just wait till you reach that plateau before you started dealing with it? Were you planning forward to the next level, or?
It's a combination. Early on in my career, I had no idea of the framework you just mentioned. I was just trying to make a living and help people and pay my bills and, pay off college or whatever it was when I started. So initially it was just very organic thought. I just want to grow. And then as you start to learn, call it a few years into the business, you start to see thresholds like there's 250,000 and $1 million and 3 million and 5 and then 100 and whatever it may be. As you start getting more aware of those models, then you start saying, what are the people at 5 million doing differently from 500,000?
You and I often talk about my mountaintop experience that I had in West Virginia. In fact, whenever you're interviewing me, it came to one of the pivotal points of our conversation. And I can remember on that mountaintop sitting beside that client, and many people who've heard my podcast has listened to this story, but I can remember thinking that, Ali, in that moment on that mountaintop, I was willing to walk away from everything I had amassed. I got $250,000 recurring revenue without me having to actually work another day of my life. And I'm like, I'm going to walk away from this because I knew that I wanted to break through a threshold level that so many advisors never touch. And in my own journey, when I started sitting back and thinking about the growth plateaus, I actually was the opposite. I was like, maybe not the opposite, that might not be the right term. I looked at it from a different lens. Like, I know where I want to be, and I realized I'm going to have to bust through 2 or 3 glass ceilings to get here. How fast can I get there? So mine was like a backwards engineering methodology for me as the business owner, saying, how do I push through these?
Justin, it comes back to what they want. Some people want a good life. Some people want a great life. Very rarely am I talking to anyone who they want a bad life. They're never debating between bad and good. It's good and great.
As we wrap up this point, because I don't want to belabor this one much longer, but as we think about, navigating these growth plateaus, breaking through the glass ceilings that each of us have to face, taking your journey and the things that you discover through your own journey, what would be the charge that you would reach out to our fellow advisor friends out there? Because we're talking specifically to financial advisors today.
Sure. Well, the first thing is, what do you want? And to our conversation earlier, if you want greatness, and when you look at your life right now, what needs to change in order for you to get to greatness? Maybe you're working 70 hours a week and you want to work 25 hours a week. Maybe you're doing $2 million of revenue, but you want to do $5 million of revenue. Maybe your net profit's 20% margin and you want it to be 40% margin. Whatever that great, first thing you have to define is, what do you want? And what does greatness look like? And the second question you got to ask yourself is, what are you doing about it? Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. So you have to change the input somewhere. So start by, what do you want? And step 2, what are you doing to get there? And if you're not deploying a system or an approach or a change that is uncomfortable right now, you're not going to get there. Greatness doesn't just happen by accident. It happens by intention.
Whenever we're riffing back and forth around the landmines that we've stepped on and literally stepped on in business, there's one that I often teach our coaching clients. I know you've dealt with this ad nauseum as well with your coaching clients, but one of them is aligning the client segmentation with the proper offer. And I can remember that particular landmine, I refused to deal with it, Ali. And until I as my dad used to say, grab the bull by the horn, son, until I dealt with this particular thing, Ali, I can tell you the exact location I was in when my coach was like, Goodbread, you're stuck. You're not going to go to your desired outcome until you align your segmentation with your offer. And I'd heard segmentation, right? I always heard, well, you can segment clients by assets under management. You can segment them by the amount of revenue they generate. You can segment them by the behavior or the referral potential or all these different things. And we could probably give a list of 15, 20 different types of segmentation. But then when he said, align my segmentation with my offer, that is where I literally started pushing back on him. What do you mean? Every client should have the same thing. Don't you realize that I'm the best financial planner since, And I would give all these excuses. But my coach with a heart of grace, with me especially, and also being diligent and pushing me, he challenged me that, hey, Goodbread, you've got to segment your clients to where they desire to be, and then make sure that you're providing a solution for them. Did you ever have that pain point yourself?
Well, I'll tell you about it in a second, but I want to hear more about yours here. So what was the greatest misalignment between what you were offering your clients and product? Like, what was when you look at the one biggest shift, and you could say, I was offering clients X service, but then I moved it to Y service. What was the biggest shift you saw in your business?
Like so many of us, in that base level of building a financial advisory practice, even after I restarted my company, trying to scale it exponentially, I still had those individuals. I still had clients who changed my diaper as a kid. And this loyalty that I had to that individual to provide them the best in service. But if I'm offering this to Miss Sharon, the lady who changed my diaper as a baby, I got to offer this client over here as A, because I'm not willing to offer my close friend any less than what I'm providing this multimillionaire. So for me, it was a mind shift internally that, hey, look, it's okay that this client over here, the lady who changed her diaper as a kid, it's okay that you provide her asset management. and only do assets under management, investment portfolio management. But this client over here is a business owner. It's okay charging them an asset management fee, a financial planning fee, a 401k management fee, a plus, because they want a premium offer. And for me, once I was able to segment my mind that I have these clients over here that all they desire is somebody they can trust to handle this one small caveat in their life or this one small thing in their life. Whereas this client over here, they want somebody they can trust to basically offboard everything. And unless I have a premium offer to align with that premium desire, then I ended up only charging them in my early days that 1% management fee, if you will.
That's a huge realization and a big value driver. So to your question, you asked me, the way I looked at business, and this was fundamental to my whole business journey and fundamental to what I do where I coach advisors now, there's only two ways to grow your business. And there's only two ways, period. Doesn't matter what business you're in, there are only two ways to grow your business. One way is you get your existing customers to buy more. And the other way is you get new customers. There's not a third way. It's only two. So from the million opportunities that are out there, you have to simplify it down to two. Do you want to have your existing customers buy more? Or do you want to get new customers? That's the first question you've got to answer. A lot of advisory firms I talk to right now, they're like, oh, my biggest problem is lead gen. My biggest problem, we're not getting enough new leads. And they don't realize within their existing book of business, they've got the ability to double revenue or 50% increase in revenue because they just don't have the tools and the mindset to shift the client experience to what it should be. And then the second group, maybe they have great systems and internal procedure and great pricing models and all that, but they don't know how to grow new clients and expand. So it's one of the two problems. The story that comes to mind for me that your story connected to was when I decided to charge fees. So I started in the business, I was 20 years old. And the first 12 months, I just sold financial services for commission, right? Someone invested money or, bought life insurance or, did something that's called college age financial services, right? You have to sell something in order to get paid. And while it was good to help people and it was good to get commissions, the problem was I would give away free guidance and advice and I didn't have a way to monetize it. So I told the firm I was working for, I said, I need to be able to charge financial planning fees. And they said, why? So I was meeting with a customer the other day and I helped them pay down their debt. I told them they need to pay off these loans and credit cards and put money in savings. And they said, well, Ollie, what do we owe you for the meeting or for the couple meetings we had? And I said, well, you don't owe me anything. And the firm had traded me, well, you can ask for referrals. You can pay me by referring me to your friends, all right? And well, not every customer wants to refer you or is comfortable or has the resources. Plus, I did a service for them. So I need to be able to charge them. So management said, no, you can't charge them. We don't do that. I said, okay, I'm leaving and I'm going to go work at a fee-based planning firm. And they're like, oh, wait a second. We have a special division that will allow you to charge fees and we can do that. Just don't leave. So I started charging fees when I was 21 years old. And every single client from that point forward, I charged a fee to build out a financial plan before we managed money.
That's intriguing, bro. I don't know if you knew that I operate the same way in my business. So when I relaunched it, what I've learned is, and maybe this is another point that we can talk through and riff on a little bit, is I learned real quick my value as an advisor. Many times advisors don't realize the true value they have. You just yourself mentioned that you were helping clients pay off a mortgage, pay down debt, help them with their tax planning, work with their attorney, with their CPA, whatever it may be. You've helped clients pick out the washer and dryer based on consumer report, information, just whatever a client desires. But if each of those offers come with a value, so many young advisors, I don't think they truly know their worth. And it's a landmine that I think I had to overstep. And that was that, what am I worth today? And how am I going to reach my goals, aligning my value today? How can I increase my value tomorrow? How can I increase my value while still adding a good quality level service? Did you ever backwards engineer your hourly rate or your value, or did you ever analyze that like on a yearly basis? And if so, how did you analyze it for yourself?
Yeah, there was two ways I did it. The first was looking at what services I provided and making sure that the fee was commensurate to the value of that service. So essentially, rather than saying this client is worth this amount of dollars or this client has this much to invest, I'd say you're going to go through this planning process and you're going to get value. This planning process, the time, energy, effort involved is going to cost this client $15,000. Now, some clients, the cost might be 5 because they're super efficient. Some might be 25 because they just took a ton of time, wanted extra meetings. But this is the value for this process. Almost like someone's buying a product, and like you're buying a big screen TV, it costs $2,000. It's not like if you're a billionaire, it costs $200,000. And if you don't have any money, it costs 200. It's one fee. So I started with that fee for service. And then I always had a hard time with the asset management fees because of the whole sliding scale. And it wasn't always even, but that was the industry. So I let the industry kind of dictate that fee. I was like, okay, AUM, we start at 90 basis points. We go down to 15 basis points, whether you have $1 million or $100 million, right? Here's your scale. Plus, we're charging you this consulting fee. So that was kind of the out the box service. And then the part I would reflect on personally that just ended up happening, it was not intentional. Even though when I sold my firm, our asset management fee percentage was like, fractions of a point, right? It was like maybe 60 basis points or like blended fee, because we had some clients with $50 million accounts and some clients with $2 million accounts. But let's just say for conversation purposes, our advisory fee was 60 basis points. So let's say you have our formula was always whatever our AUM was, our total revenue just happened to be 1% of our AUM. We didn't price it that way. So hypothetically speaking, we have a $500 million under management. I knew our revenue would be about $5 million. Even if our AUM revenue was only 2.6, we just knew that between consulting fee or product revenue, whatever else, it just always ended up working out for 1% of whatever the AUM was. So when we were doing business planning, we're saying, okay, we're at 500,000 of revenue or 550 million under management, and we're doing 500,000 revenue. I knew that if we projected 3 years forward, and we're going to have 250 million under management, we're going to be about 2.5 million of revenue. And that wasn't from a spreadsheet. That was just knowing it's going to be about 1% of whatever our AUM is. Because if it's not 1% from AUM fees, if you add in consulting fees or other revenue, it's going to just add up to be there. So planning wise, it simplified all the projections because I had a baseline formula to say this much AUM, this much revenue, even though the actual numbers wouldn't show up exactly that way at the end.
I want to dive into that 3 different ways. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And I was backwards engineering while you were talking, just as a framework. Is I'm here in East Tennessee. I'm not in your particular location. Different marketplace than back when I was around the practice before the migration happened over the last 3-4 years, whenever California, Minnesotans, and Pennsylvanians moved here in Tennessee and changed our demographics around a little bit. Tennessee was 47th in the country in terms of assets under management. An average household here in Knoxville that has retirement accounts is under $200,000. And so we just have very low values. But whenever I backwards engineer it, our revenue was 3.2 roughly times our AUM number. We had very low AUM because we were dealing with business owners, not necessarily who had not amassed their wealth yet, right? We were dealing with scaling businesses. And so I think that I just want to make this point because the audience can say, well, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Just charge 1%, do everything. Well, it kind of does. That's not what you're saying.
So I can tell you, Justin, I could do one thing to your business model and tell you it's going to be nearly identical to mine, is take out the outliers.
Oh, yeah.
If you take out the outliers, your top 3 and your bottom 3, because there's always a client that comes in that's like, I'm going to charge them $300,000 in consulting fee because they want to talk to me every week. You got to take that outlier out, and you got to take out the client that you still keep on because they're your grandmother's best friend and they pay you, $190 a year in fees. So you cut out the outliers. Your main business is probably going to be about that level, but sometimes the outliers are what makes your year.
As you were running your business, and you're looking at the multiples, and you're looking at the revenue, you're looking at the outliers. Did you ever think along the journey, what is my business worth? And am I best in class? Am I on the right side of the bell curve? Am I average? Am I below average in terms of what my value of my company is worth compared to the industry based on the segmentation of my clients or based on my offer? Did you analyze that frequently? And if so, how frequently?
I analyzed that later in my journey. So I started in the business in 2004. I started True Vista in 2009. And then I sold the business in 2024. So I would say that when All True Vista got to a point where we went from about 20 million under management to 250 million under management in about 3 or 4 years. We grew at 10x, maybe shorter than that, 3 or 4 years, I think. When we hit that spike, I quit looking at net profit as the goal, and I started looking at enterprise value. So it went from, we make, $1 million a year of profit, which was really meaningless because, so what? Then what? I'm not going to change my life because there's more cash flow. But what I did care about was, okay, if the business is worth, 2 times revenue, because we're 2 million of revenue, what is it worth if we're, or 8 times earnings? What is it worth if we're 5 times that? And how do we drive enterprise value? And how do we get higher multiples? And how could we maybe one day sell the company for double-digit multiples, like a software company? Or, how do we get the earnings from 30% margin to 60% margin? All those thoughts started running through my head probably 5 years in. And then I was looking for ways to expand enterprise value and thinking more like a CEO than an advisor.
How did technology affect your mind? Do you see a landmine of either not embracing technology quick enough or trying to embrace technology too quick?
Fantastic question, Justin. That is literally a question that most advisors, the right answer to that question is probably worth $100,000, maybe more. So my thought there, I shouldn't say thought, my experience there is there's a balance. If there's great benefits in Salesforce, doesn't mean you go adopt Salesforce and spend $50,000 on Salesforce. That could be a terrible move for a $500,000 practice, right? On the flip side, if you say, I'm going to figure out tech on my own, and you don't hire great consultants to help you build out the tech, that could be a really bad decision. So in short, my guidance would be do the research on what's available and find that appropriate technology solution for where your practice is going in the next 3 years.
I want to bring you to the one pitfall. And maybe we've already hit on it a little bit, maybe we haven't, but as you sit today in this coaching seat that you're in today, an unbelievable practice, by the way. I mean, I had the privilege of sitting almost near the front of the journey with you through the exit. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was fun to to coach and motivate you through some of these things that you were dealing with, because I'd been there 2 years prior. Knowing what I know that you achieved during this 15-year time frame. And obviously we could count dozens of landmines because you and I have the scars to deal with it. And by the way, everybody listening to us also has scars. What is that one? What's that one thing that's like, if you could, like my dad used to grab me by my shoulders and want to shake me. It's like, son, listen to me now. Take this advice. Don't make the same dumb mistakes I made. What is that one thing, Ali, that you would say, advisors, lean up, get your pencil out and take notes now? What would it be?
You will manifest the practice and create the practice that your mindset is aligned with. There are guys in our industry like Peter Mallouk who have a mindset of massive scale and can create a $1 trillion, $500 billion AUM business model. At the same time Peter Mallouk started his career, there's another advisor today that has $100 million under management, and he makes $500,000 a year of income and is really happy. And every day he works 10 hours a day, and every day Peter Mallouk works 10 hours a day. And one's got a $500 billion under management and one's got 100 million. The difference between those two individuals is mindset. And I think everyone, it's not a right or wrong. You can live a great life with $100 million practice, and you can live a great life with $1 trillion practice. I don't mean this to be judgmental toward the outcome, but advisors that want to grow, the first thing you have to grow is your mindset.
For those of you who are financial advisors out there, you're listening to Ali Nasser, who is a stud in the industry. This guy knows what he's talking about. If you've not picked up his book yet, I know I highlighted some time ago, The Business Owner Dilemma. I would challenge you to read his book, especially if you want to work with business owners. And if you need a coach who's been there, done that, you need to have a conversation with Ali. I'm excited to see his coaching program continue to flourish. I'm excited to watch the impact that he's going to have on the industry. So to your point on mindset, I think if I were going to answer my own question there, what's the biggest pitfall that I see? Now, this is after 30 plus years of being a business owner. And you know where I come from in my mindset is how can advisors, no matter where they're located, how can they build a transferable business while they're impacting the clients? Obviously, we've got to give a best-in-class service for our clients. But how do we build a transferable business so that we're also taking care of ourselves and our family? And whenever I look at it, I think that one pitfall that I see consistently, and I'll tell you why I say this, I see this consistently, is advisors, financial advisors do not view themselves as business owners first. They view themselves as financial advisors who happen to own a business. Think of yourself as a business owner. And if you put yourself in that business owner seat, then the advisory side of it becomes so simple. It becomes easy to do because now you're aligning everything toward your vision. And by the way, that confidence, Ollie, that I've seen in you, and that confidence that you've seen in me as we now are coaching people and we're bold and we're tenacious and we're like, this is not going to work. The same confidence the client's going to see in you whenever you say, yes, and my offer is $150,000. And here's why it's worth it. And here's what you're going to get for that. And by the way, you're going to see the value. And then they become the raving fans and we're timid about asking them to begin in the first place. If I had to be a financial advisor for the rest of my life, I would move to Idaho, sell llamas, and stick a fork in my eye. I know it sounds cliche and it's just simple, but what I'm trying to get in my mind, the people who listen to me is saying, I realize that if all I have to do is be a financial advisor, I'm not going to reach my goals. I'm not going to be able to connect with those people that I had the privilege and honor to serve. I can't impact the audience I want to impact. So as now we move forward into this year 2025, to me, it's about challenging the listener to say, who are you? You're a business owner first who happens to be this. You're a business owner who happens to be a dentist. You're a business owner who happens to be a pool cleaner. You're a business owner who happens to be a financial advisor. You're a business owner. If we take that approach, Ali, I don't see where it's ever done a disservice to anybody I coach.
I think everybody that's struggling with that should just listen to the last 2 minutes on replay for a while. You nailed it. I think it doesn't matter whether you're an advisor first or a business owner first. The mindset, the growth mindset, if you really want to grow your business, you've got to think I'm a business owner first. And that mindset's so valuable. 100% agree with everything you said. And I have a follow-up question for you. So for the advisors that you have worked with, that let's say I go back in my career 5 years, right? I'm thinking about transition planning. I'm thinking about, some new impact. I'm a few years away from a potential exit. When you think about the top 10 advisors you've worked with that are maybe, if you could see in your crystal ball, they're 3 to 5 years away from their exit. They're thinking like a business owner, but they're preparing for that exit 3 to 5 years from now. What would you say are the biggest pitfalls or issues or landmines that they're currently dealing with? That's that common issue that those advisors pre-exit planning are dealing with the most. Curious to know your experience there.
It's always the one thing, because the one thing is so interconnected. It's so interconnected to every other area of the business. And it's the centrality of the business owner. The business owner will not relinquish control at some point along the game. And as they relinquish control, as they move themselves from the epicenter of the business, and now they start setting up paraplanners and systems and using technology properly and building their offer, and they start setting back, what they ultimately can get to is a position where they have the golden goose. They have the business that can operate without them. Those individuals who had these successful transitions, I'm talking about cash up front, very low earnouts, very low clawbacks. I mean, everything that we would desire in a transition. Those individuals who take 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years even prior to creating an exit, have built an entire machine that operates without them. If you go back and listen to my podcast, I challenge anybody to do this. I now have almost 600 podcasts that I've been recording throughout the entire journey of my growth, scaling, and exit. You can hear the time frame in my podcast when I began pulling myself back out of the talking head. I actually had every one of my salespeople, every one of my employees, every one of my paraplanners, my stock traders, everybody were doing podcasts, not me. I was beginning to back myself out of the company. So I was practicing what I preached. And when it came time for exit, it was a best-in-class exit. If I told you the numbers, you've seen some of the numbers, but I told the numbers, it would blow people's mind on the value of creating a truly transferable business. So I think to me, Ali, it's always owner centrality.
I think that's a great observation. I can relate to many, many parts of that. And I think many advisors were built, when we start our career, we're told to do everything ourselves. And most financial advisors entered the business either through eat what you kill when they were 20 years old, college, 25 years old, started with an insurance company or a brokerage firm called Merrill Lynch or New York Life and sink or swim. Or they worked for a firm and then had to go out and start their own practice. They had an offshoot, and you're taught to do everything. And sometimes the greatest value is undoing those old habits. And just undoing the old habits creates the biggest growth and thinking about it like a business owner. So that makes perfect sense. I definitely have felt those pains. And we could probably dive in for another hour one day just on that topic alone.
Well, with that, let's bring this plane to a close. Let's bring this plane to the ground here. So friends, you've got two professionals who've been in your seat, two financial advisors who have the scars. Ooh, we have the scars. We have decades of experience, and now we have the privilege of coaching financial advisors along their journey. Out of decision, not out of necessity, you and I both could literally sail into the sunset tomorrow because we've been blessed. But out of decision, we want to impact this next generation. So my challenge to you as a listener is, and we'll probably do this again, what's a question or two that Ollie and I should answer on our next episode? As we're thinking about, how do we impact financial advisors? How do we impact business owners? What's a question that's burning in your mind? Hey, do us a favor. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Write us a little comment. Check out Ollie's coaching programs. They rock. They help advisors move forward. Until next time, friends, from Ollie and Justin, number one, thank you for joining us. Number two, y'all go out and make it a great day.